Well, hello everyone. Welcome to today's burst of innovation. I couldn't wait to blast this out and get you on here. So thank you all for being here, because today we're going to discuss a topic that I think is pretty important, and that is the tug of war game. That is the resistors and drivers of change. Have you ever played that game? Do you remember that game when you were a kid? You'd have the rope, you'd have team on one side, team on the other, and you tried to kind of pull each other over the line. Well, I think that's what's happening individually in our teams and in our organizations when it comes to change and innovation. It's this constant tug of war game that we're all playing. And it's frustrating because it happens every day. And on one side, you have team resistors, right? The resistors of change. And on the other side, you've got the drivers of change, the things that push change and progress and innovation. So the resistors in the tug of war game are holding change and innovation back. And the drivers are the ones pushing it forward. And here's the thing, it's not an either or game. So it's not that you have in your tug of war game all resistors or all drivers. You actually have a bit of both. So I actually want to show you my screen really quickly and flip over and share a slide that talks about the resistors and drivers of change, because it happens individually at a personal level, how we behave, the thoughts that we have, the actions that we take. It happens at the team level, at the level of how you interact with your team, whether that's kind of a cohesive team that you always have, or just interact with other people in your organization that you need to get stuff done. And it definitely happens at an organizational level. And I'll share with you a few stories about each of these. So let me flip over and share with you my screen. And while I'm doing that, just know that if you have any questions, you can actually message me directly if you want to, or the entire group. So, and I'll try to get to them all. I don't always get to them, but I try really hard to. So let me get this to play from the current slide so you can see it. Okay. So resistors and drivers of change. As I was saying, the tug of war game. You can see, I think this slide shows it really well, how they're both kind of interacting with each other. And what I often find when I go into organizations that are playing this tug of war game is that there are more resistors than there are drivers. So there are hotspots of innovation happening at all those three levels, individual, team, and organization. But there are so many resistors pulling everybody back down that it's hard to make that change and that innovation happen. Have you ever experienced that in your work, where you feel like you're trying to push something forward, you're trying to be innovative, you're trying to make change happen, you know it's the right thing to do, but unfortunately there are so many different resistors that all drag it back down, and it happens over and over again. And what I find in organizations at all those levels is that if we don't balance out this tug of war game to have more drivers, stronger drivers than resistors, we'll never get the change and the innovation that we're looking for. We'll never get the change and the innovation that we need to succeed in today's changing and fast-paced marketplace. It is very complex out there. And I think we all know that if we stay in the place of resistor, we're not going to have success, or even last for that matter. So let me talk a little bit about both of them at those three levels. And I know this is the ugliest slide in the world. It kills me. But as you know, I do these things last minute, and I wanted to get this information to you. So I was more concerned about that than the beauty of the slide. Let me just start high level for a second. There's a reason why we need to change and innovate. And that top line up here often talks about that. That is, there's a changing marketplace that we're in. There's a shift in our customers' expectations. Maybe they want something different from us. There's new employee expectations. What they demand is different from us, how they expect to work and be treated. Or there's competitive threats that come in. Maybe there's a new player in your field. Maybe there's a new product or service out there that's taking some of your pie. There are a lot of things happening out there in the marketplace and internal in our companies that are forcing the need for change. Now, notice I said forcing the need for change, not forcing change, because you can need it. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. It's still dependent on those resistors and those drivers and that tug of war game. So let's start with the resistor side: individual, team, organization. So the resistors at the individual side can be very personal. It's a fear, right? Fear of putting yourself out there, fear of the unknown, fear of looking stupid, fear of failure always comes up. But there's others too that are not as obvious, like comfort. there's a lot of comfort in doing things the way we've always done them, in doing things in a way that we already know. Even if it's not working, we know it. And that makes it comfortable for us to stay there. Fear of consequences. Well, what if it doesn't work? And then I'm going to get a decrease in pay. I'm not going to get the promotion. I'm not going to get recognized. Whatever it is in your world, I'm not going to get that client. Those consequences can feel very real to us. And I put on here success too, because I think sometimes success can be the greatest resistor of change and innovation. If what we're doing right now is working well enough for us personally and at the bigger business level, why change? Why do anything different? Now, we know because of this top line that there are shifts and changes and demands happening that does require us to do that. But it's very easy as a resistor to talk ourselves back into, well, this is working well enough right now, so let's keep doing this. In fact, there's this great story about Sears. So we all know Sears. We all know they're like on the way out, if not already out. And one of the things about them is, they invented home shopping, really, right? Remember the catalog? I don't know if you guys do, but it used to come in the mail, and I would earmark it and like put it in front of my parents, hoping they'd see the things that I wanted through the catalog. They knew the internet was coming. They had the money, the market, the products, the people, the intelligence. The reason they didn't make that shift and suddenly found themselves in this big gap in the marketplace because they had this resistor of success. They said, no, things are working well for us. This catalog is crushing it. We don't need to change. We don't need to explore this online thing yet. Let's keep doing what we're doing. That happens at the individual level and, of course, at the team and organization level. So I would encourage all of you on here today to really think about what are the resistors that you personally have. Are you afraid of going for that promotion because, hey, look, you know what you're doing now is comfortable? Are you concerned about the consequences that, by the way, may or may not happen? I heard this great stat that 80% of the things we worry about never come to fruition. So what are those individual resistors for you? When we get off this call, I would actually encourage you to take a second and actually write down all the personal resistors that are keeping you from moving forward. After a different live vlog that I did, I had a woman text me, a woman that I know, and she said, it's interesting, after hearing your thing about fear, it made me realize that I'm resisting going for this promotion because I'm afraid they'll think I'm too young, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm really comfortable doing what I'm doing. It's a big resistor of change. So that's at the individual level. We all have them. Your team has them too. It's really important to identify what they have as their resistors. Everybody on the team has them, and sometimes they're a little bit different and often surprising. So second level is at the team level. So a resistor to change in your team could be, maybe there's a lack of trust. Maybe they haven't quite gelled, and that invisible barrier that's between them is actually holding them back. Maybe it's consensus. Everybody on the team feels like everybody has to be in agreement or has to have a say in everything. And that's actually holding your team back. That's a big resistor in the tug of war is consensus. It's often confused with collaboration. And the third one is maybe everybody in your team is in silos, or the teams themselves are in silos. So people aren't actually collaborating. They're not working together. I worked at a company where everybody kind of was charged with doing their own thing, but none of us ever, there was no dotted lines between us. None of us ever got together. And it was a massive resistor to change and innovation because we were not connected to the people that we were working with. Even if we weren't working with them on a daily basis, we needed that gel and that connection to make things happen. And then it's at the organizational level, bureaucracy. Oh, I think we all know that, right? It is a killer of innovation, such a big resistor. Process, the processes slow everything down. I've often worked with clients where the process becomes this mud that just halts everything. And you know it. Every company has those processes that you just think, oh, why does this have to be the way it is? Ooh, that is my timer. Think about the process, the hierarchy, right? I used to work with this woman who loved hierarchy. So the only people she listened to was the people in leadership, the frontline people who were the customers, never got a say. So hierarchy can be a big resistor. Lack of clarity, confusion can kill innovation. Outcome driven, meaning it's all about the success and the failures. So I've said a bunch of them. Those are a lot of the resistors of change. I want you to think about it, your organization. If you were to list out individually, team, organization, what those resistors are, I bet you'll find some really interesting insights into how you're operating and why maybe sometimes innovation and change gets stuck. Let me talk about the flip side before we're done here, because I think they're as important. And as I said, it's never a one versus the other. Oftentimes, all of these things are at play at once. So on the driving side, a desire to perform at a higher level for individual. Maybe you want to perform at a higher level. Maybe you have this drive to bust out and do things differently. Maybe you have a need for recognition, which is perfectly okay. So you want to go do something innovative, or a willingness to be uncomfortable. That is so important. That willingness to step out and be uncomfortable when you know or feel that it's the right thing to do drives innovation. Or maybe it's the team, like real collaboration, right? Your team knows how to work together, or they have great trust and they have boundaries, meaning they know what to work on and what to say no to. Or maybe they have unified goals, so everybody's very clear on where they're headed together. Those will drive innovation in your organization. The last one, at the organizational levels, maybe there's open channels for communication. It's not about hierarchy. It's about everybody having a say in innovation, or clear vision, having a culture of innovation. Behavior driven, meaning your company focuses on the behaviors you need, not just the outcomes, but the behaviors to drive innovation. So as you can see, same thing on this side. Think about what are those drivers in your organization? What at the individual level, the team and the organization are helping you push innovation forward. And as I said, this tug of war game, there's a mix of all of them almost all the time. The key here, after you list them out, is to ask yourself, how do I minimize the drivers? And how do I minimize the resistors? And how do I increase the drivers? That's what's going to get you to actually move innovation and change forward. Think deeply about it. I listed out a bunch that I've interacted with, but every company has its unique set of resistors and drivers, and I know yours does too. All right. My time is more than up, I think. So thank you for joining me today for today's webcast and burst of innovation. It's great to see you all on here. Any question I didn't get to, I saw if you come in privately on the chat, I will get to later and address over social media and in our channels as well. So thank you so much. Now that awkward pause, right? Moment.